Sometimes, everyday things in our lives develop special meaning over time, without us even realizing it. Years ago, I saw my mom cry at the loss of some very old, very large trees during Hurricane Katrina. Those trees represented something to her, and they were gone in a moment. My wife's grandparents have lived in the same house for nearly 60 years. Over those years, many trees have grown and fallen, but one particular tree stood strong for probably most of the time they lived there. That is, until last year, when the oak tree I'm speaking of was struck by lightning and became unsafe to leave standing. It was very near their house and it had to be taken down. I didn't have a way to mill the lumber, and I don't even have a way to get it back to my house even if I had milled it. I don't have a truck, a trailer, or a mill of any kind. All of the wood was turned into firewood so as not to be wasteful of a resource. When you're making something like this, you might be tempted to have all of your boards be the same length because in your mind that's just what makes sense when you glue something up. But we're actually going to cut this into a circle later, so it's okay that some of the end pieces are shorter. So a quick tip is you can make more out of your material if you don't have enough. I just grabbed this compass to see if it would actually work, and if you look, it goes right to the edge, and it looks like we're going to be able to get a 16-inch Lazy Susan out of this. In the same vein of not wanting to waste, I grabbed 4 pieces of the oak firewood from their pile 1 year ago when we were at their house for Thanksgiving. I thought to myself that it would be very special if I could make something for them out of that tree that stood by their house for so many decades. I milled all of the boards down to have 2 flat and parallel sides. Then, I took them to the bandsaw to resaw them into halves. I wanted to get as much yield from these boards as possible. I arranged them to where I thought they looked good, and then ran them through the planer so they would be all the same thickness. I glued them together, and then I needed to fill some of the voids with epoxy. I am using West Systems epoxy and adding a bit of very fine sawdust into the mixture. There were some wormholes and other cracks that needed filling. I didn't want everything perfectly smooth, but I wanted it stable. I used a torch to get all of the bubbles out of the epoxy. The epoxy's dry now. I need to cut a circle, and I've got my circle cutting jig that I have measured out and marked where I need it to be. I'm just going to flip this over and find the center so I can put a little divot there and take it over to the bandsaw. This circle cutting jig has been very valuable. I'm not sure where all I gleaned inspiration from, but there are a lot of videos about it out there on YouTube. After I took this out of the clamps, it was slightly cupped and warped. So what I'm doing is I've just got a piece of scrap plywood, got some hot glue and some shims that I have shimmed this to where it can't rock. So I'm going to run it through the drum sander a few times to get that back to a flat side, and then I'll pop all that off and flip it over and do a couple finish passes, and it should be fine. I added a roundover to one side and a chamfer to the underside. This would help it to feel a little bit more elegant. Whenever you get these Lazy Susan hardware packs, you need to oil them a little bit. They are a little stiff, and some 3-in-1 oil really works wonders. After making sure the hardware was centered, I marked where the screws needed to go, drilled them out a bit so they wouldn't split, and put in the screws. I used some cabinet bumpers as feet for this. They worked well, and I wish I would have thought of using them sooner. Thanks for watching. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel by clicking below. That way, you can see every time I upload a new video. Also, help me grow my channel. Click that thumbs up button. That tells YouTube that you like the content, and my videos will get shown to even more people. See you next time.